Hi, I'm James Martin with the Charles Sarkis Restaurant Group. Today we're going to make risotto, and what I want to do today is I want to make risotto and explain to the home cook so they feel comfortable in making risotto, which there is a great misconception on how difficult it is to make. And being at Paparazzi for the last 18 years, one thing that I think I have mastered is doing risotto for mass volume. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down step by step so you feel very, very comfortable making this risotto. If you're entertaining guests, having a cocktail party, dinner, and do it in a way so you feel organized enough so you actually enjoy yourself to spend some time with your loved ones and your guests. So, the bottom line with risotto, perfect risotto comes from passion. And I'm going to explain how we get the passion out of the rice, because it just doesn't happen by accident. Let's cook. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to warm my pan, and I'm going to add about a quarter cup of unsalted butter. And we always want to use unsalted butter because we want to season our dishes ourselves. We're going to melt our butter, and we want to do it on a medium heat. We don't want the butter to brown or to turn color. So we're melting. We're going to get all the butter melted in the pan. The reason that we're using a wooden spoon is you never want to scratch the pan to get any kind of particles or impurities in the risotto. So we're going to put in our shallots. We're going to cook our shallots till they're translucent, which means you can basically see through them. They're about 3/4 of the way cooked. At that point, I'm going to season with sea salt and white pepper. Cook those seasonings into the translucent shallots. I'm going to put the heat up a little bit. Now I'm going to add 2 cups of rice. I'm going to lower the heat a little bit so we don't get any color on the rice. Always incorporating everything very evenly. Next, we're going to take champagne, and I'm going to deglaze. And deglaze is a term which means to basically cook all of the alcohol out of the champagne to just leave the beautiful, glorious flavors. And the general rule of thumb with that is reducing the liquid by half. So if I started off with 2 ounces of champagne, I would reduce that down to 1 ounce. And that's something that you definitely want to eyeball. So right now, the champagne is all reduced out, all the alcohol is out. I'm just left with the beautiful flavors of the champagne. But what I'm going to do is slowly incorporate my warm caramelized fennel lobster broth. And again, the secret to perfect risotto is adding this hot broth very, very slowly, 1 ladle at a time. Incorporating the broth in until it is all absorbed. As you can hear, the broth being absorbed, you know it's time to add another ladle. And I talked about passion before I started making the risotto. Passion and love is going to bring all the starch out of the rice and make a very, very creamy risotto. And the key to making perfect risotto is the creaminess of it. And anyone that adds cream to a risotto, first of all, is cheating. And second of all, isn't using the proper procedures and executing the risotto properly. So as you can see, I'm adding the hot fennel lobster broth very, very slowly, incorporating it in. You can actually see that the starch is starting to come out of the rice. And the rice that we use, that I use all the time, is Carnaroli rice. Big difference between Carnaroli rice and arborio rice is Carnaroli rice, it's not sold in bulk quantity, so it stays very, very fresh. I'm incorporating my hot lobster broth, adding it 1 ladle at a time. Very, very important. That's the only way we're going to get all of the starch out of the rice. The general rule of thumb with any kind of rice is 2 parts liquid to 1 part rice. And right now I'm at about 15 minutes. And to make perfect risotto, it's going to take anywhere between 18, 20, 22 minutes, depending on how high your heat is, how strong your gas is. But again, very, very slowly, get all of the starch out of the rice. As you can see, it's getting very, very creamy. I'm absorbing all of the stock. I'm going to add more stock. And you're just repeating this process over and over until the rice is al dente. So now at about the 22-minute mark, I've added all of my lobster broth. And at this point, I've tasted it for the seasonings. I do think it needs a touch more sea salt. Add my sea salt, taste it again. And again, you really can't taste the food enough. So I'm very confident it's al dente. It tastes perfect. So at this point, the most important thing is to cool it off properly. So I'm going to take sheet pans. In this part, I have a half sheet pan. I'm going to layer the risotto in a very, very thin layer so it cools off very, very evenly and very, very quickly. Because I do want to keep it al dente. Because this is the base risotto. I make a very, very thin layer of the rice, very even in the sheet pan. And I'm going to let it cool at room temperature for about 20 minutes. Then I'm going to put it into my refrigerator so it finishes the cooling process and it's basically ready to go. And I can make many, many different kinds of risotto from my base risotto. The base risotto that we made just now was with a lobster broth. So that said, we would make any kind of a seafood risotto. Shrimp, scallop, mussels, calamari. Basically any kind of seafood you would want. If I was making a chicken risotto, I would use chicken broth, beef broth, and so on. You know how to make your base risotto now, so the possibilities are endless.